Welcome back to the Mike and Andrew Show. I'm Andrew Surik here with Mike Meredith. Mike, how are you doing this fine Tuesday evening?
I'm doing good, man.
Good. Let's get into it, man. This is gonna be a pretty quick episode today, so let's get right into it. Thursday night football. The Steelers hosted the Titans. They win this one 20-16. Despite it being a fairly low-scoring game by NFL standards, man, this was a very, very good game. Will Levis played really, really good for Tennessee. Obviously, he came up short uh, with the loss, but Kenny Pickett he played a pretty decent game as well. This was a kind of a boring game, but at the same time, it was kind of like one of those grind fests, which are kind of fun to watch, even with some pretty struggling teams here. But Pittsburgh improves to 5-3 in this one. Tennessee drops to 3-5. Um, Man, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, it was definitely a game that I expected with kind of low scoring, and Pittsburgh's finding a way to get a win. They uh, they find a way to keep winning games, man. So they come up with the big win here in the division that all the teams been looking pretty strong so far.
Yeah, if the playoffs were to start today, every single team in that division would be in the playoffs, which is crazy to think about. So Sunday games. The first game we had was a morning game. The game over in Germany. The Chiefs won 21-14 over the Dolphins. It was all Chiefs in the first half. It was 21 nothing going into halftime, but the Dolphins started to come back, but just in the end couldn't do anything in the fourth quarter to even come close to tying this one.
Yeah, Dolphins. They just looking. They have not really been good against teams that are actually good. They're putting up on average almost 40 points against teams under 500, and then the Bills, the Eagles, and the Chiefs, teams that are over 500 and are good. Their offenses look pretty dead, so definitely have to see how Miami goes moving forward here. But the Chiefs come out with the big win over in Germany.
Yeah, Chiefs with a nice conference win. Obviously Miami they got to figure this out against decent teams because their offense looks really good, and then they play a good defense or just a good team in general and just fall apart. They got to figure it out. Tua especially has to figure it out against these better defenses that he's been playing, but yeah, man. The Chiefs, even though Miami doesn't play defense, their offense kind of struggled in this one. Um, but yeah, they did have the fumble recovery for a touchdown late in the second quarter as well, which was basically was the game-winning score for the Chiefs. Ravens they hosted the Seahawks. They win 37-3. Um, that just tells you just how bad the Lions really looked, especially if Baltimore's beaten a team. Well, they beat the Lions this bad. Now they beat a team that beat the Lions this bad, man. Just not a very good game for Seattle. Geno Smith looked like garbage out there. And Lamar Jackson, dude, 21 for 26, but under 200 yards. Um, but this run game definitely helped Baltimore, and their defense, man, incredible lately.
Yeah, Baltimore is like unstoppable at home this year, man. They have been going crazy the last few weeks, and they're probably going to win this division, even though it's so tough. They have been they've been doing crazy good, man.
Yeah, well, their defense has been getting healthier as the year goes on, and man, it is getting a lot better, and they're just blowing teams out, especially at home now. Speaking of blowouts, the Browns they win. They host the Cardinals. They win in a shutout, 27 and nothing. Um, this was a very very bad performance for Arizona. Obviously, they have Clayton Tune in at quarterback. after trading away Josh Dobbs. Deshaun Watson, he didn't play the greatest game ever, but he didn't play terrible either. But Clayton Tune, man, yeah, 11 for 20, 58 yards and 2 picks. Just not a good game, man. And yeah, Arizona's defense just had no answers. I mean, they couldn't get off the field, and the offense just couldn't do anything, and so they're right back on the field, man.
Yep, Arizona back to that mindset of that number one pick. They're actually below Carolina now, even though Carolina doesn't even own their pick. 1-8, so Cardinals are doing what they want to do, man. They're tanking.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The Texans hosted the Buccaneers, and man, this was one hell of a game, dude. Hell of a game for both the quarterbacks in this game. But C.J. Stroud, 30 for 42, 470 yards, and 5 touchdowns. After kind of he started off the season well, kind of started to fall off a little bit, but what a hell of a comeback game for him. He improves Houston to 4-4, but Baker Mayfield, man, he threw for 265 yards and 2 touchdowns in this one. Rashad White had a really good game. He rushed for 2 touchdowns in this one, and this was a really, really close game. I think we both picked the Bucks. I know at least I did. But yeah, man, this was a really, really fun game to watch, and yeah, Houston coming up with a nice win, and Tampa Bay just can't find a way to win now.
Yeah, actually, I did take Houston in this one. I did think it was going to be close, and it definitely was. C.J. Stroud almost 500 yards. It was a rookie record here, saying rookie record for passing yards, I believe it was, in a game. So, crazy, man. Stroud, the one thing that concerns me about Stroud, though, is seems like he's up and down. He'll go off or he'll be really bad. I feel like there's not a lot of in between with him this season.
Yeah, I don't. He hasn't really had a particularly bad game. I think his worst game was like in week 4 or week 5, but he hasn't really been bad. He's just kind of been average, kind of like still probably the best rookie quarterback even in those average games, because I mean Bryce Young hasn't been doing well at all. Um, and yeah, I just think C.J. Stroud might just be that OSU quarterback curse breaker, because he's just playing insanely good football right now. The Saints hosted the Bears. They win 24-17. Derek Carr had a pretty decent game here. 25 for 34, 211 yards. But Tyson Bagent, man, just awful game. 3 picks. He also threw 2 touchdowns, but when you're throwing 3 picks, man, you're not gonna give your team a chance to win.
Yeah, just tough one. I mean, the Saints aren't that great, but definitely the better team here of basically bottom of the barrel teams.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, the Saints are they're in that. I mean, they're leading the NFC South right now. Um, After this week, Atlanta obviously losing, which we'll get to here in a minute. But yeah, just this win, it was against a bad Chicago team. Chicago had a chance to win this game though too. But yeah, man, just a fourth quarter touchdown to win it for the Saints, and then just a few clutch stops, and that was it. The Falcons hosted the Vikings. The Vikings won this one 31-28. Atlanta just, Heineke, he played a pretty decent game. If I remember correctly, this was the first game he's played this year, or at least started. But he looked decent at times. Josh Dobbs, obviously, just he had a Josh Dobbs kind of game where it was just like not incredibly flashy, but not terrible. And he goes 20 for 30 and 158 yards. But T.J. Hawkinson had a really good game. for Minnesota as well in this one. But yeah, man, I'm just honestly surprised Atlanta lost this game because Minnesota has not been looking good at all.
Yeah, I mean, look at Josh Dobbs, man. That crazy play that he made on fourth down to give them a chance to win the game. He was, talked about a lot in the aftermath of this game here. Atlanta's choking again like they always do. Minnesota's kind of creeping up on Detroit. I mean, I know it's not yet, but if Detroit loses this week, they're gonna only be like a game behind, man. So they're creeping up. So we got to watch out.
Yeah, Detroit obviously is the only. Minnesota hasn't had their bye week. Detroit obviously they had their bye this weekend. So technically speaking, Minnesota is just a game behind Detroit right now, but kind of game and a half back if you really want to call it that way. But I don't know, man. I don't think Josh Dobbs is going to put up that level of performance again. Maybe he will, but I just don't see it. Especially looking at the Vikings' schedule the rest of the season, man. I don't know, man. The Packers hosted the Rams. The Packers win 20-3. They snapped their losing streak, and LA's continues, man. Jordan Love had a pretty decent game for the first time since week 1. He went 20 for 26 in this one. Aaron Jones had a pretty solid game rushing for Green Bay as well. And then LA's offense just couldn't do anything at all in this game.
Yeah, LA was out there running with a backup, and they actually just signed Carson Wentz since Stafford's out. So they are definitely beat up right now with injuries. So don't really see them doing much moving forward. They're probably just going to coast it out until the end here as Stafford's dealing with injuries. Cup was out at the start of the year. They've just been dealing with a lot of bad luck over there in LA. So Packers get the win here, and Jordan Love, I guess, has something to be happy about, getting a win with him not playing as well as people had hoped for this season.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good win for him. He's a little bit of confidence booster for him, considering the last few weeks for him. The Patriots hosted the Commanders. Commanders win 20-17. This was a pretty close game throughout. It was never. I mean, the largest score was a 10-point lead for Washington, but that was pretty quickly answered by New England. But New England kind of just it was a little bit back and forth in like the middle part of the game. But Mac Jones had a pretty rough day, despite going for throwing for 220 yards. Sam Howell, same thing, man. He threw for 325, but he only went 29 for 45 and threw a pick in this one. Yeah, obviously Washington, they definitely needed that win. They're still, trying to maybe try and get a wild card spot, and that definitely helps their bid for that. And New England, man, they've just been struggling all year long.
Yeah, New England, man, they are looking horrible. Washington, it wasn't a crazy, outstanding win, but they get the win here. Pretty much already said that they're going to finish third in their division. Giants are awful, and then Eagles and Cowboys are just a little bit better than them. But we'll see how they finish the rest of the year. But yeah, they get the win here.
Yeah, nice solid win for the Commanders for sure. The Panthers hosted the Colts. Colts winning it 27-13. Gardner Minshew. He had a Gardner Minshew kind of day, and Bryce Young, man, just continuing to just struggle again and again and again. 3 picks in this one, which gave Indy, he threw 2 pick 6s in this one. That was really the deciding factor because Indy's offense didn't really do a whole lot. Um, but yeah, man, just Bryce Young just can't do anything. I don't know if he just can't see over his lineman in front of him or what, man. But yeah, just a really really rough day for him.
Yeah, Panthers should have took C.J. Stroud, man. It's crazy though because Bryce Young was just he had the talent in college, but just it's not translating. And we've had some quarterbacks that were a little bit smaller. Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, who've had success in the past, but usually if you're below that 6 foot mark, man, it's tough to be successful in the NFL.
Yeah, it's very tough below that 6 foot mark, especially if you're well below it like Bryce Young is. The Raiders hosted the Giants and they win big, 30-6 in this one. This was a very very good game for Vegas. Aiden O'Connell went 16 for 25. Obviously, Jimmy G got benched. Um, Jerry Jacobs had a really, really good game. 26 carries, 98 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, man, just a very solid game. And the Giants just struggling again and again and again.
Yeah, the Raiders made some changes this week, and it really paid off. It was the Giants, so not really impressive, but they they get the win, and it's crazy because I was seeing that Daniel Jones now is out for the year. Tyrod Taylor, I still think might be hurt, so the Giants are basically playing a third string quarterback moving forward. Their season is just in shambles. And I really think that this coach for the Raiders is going to be good. I was hearing stories about him, uh, you know, being a coach elsewhere, and his team was up like 50, 60 points at halftime, and he was like, "Nah, this is not how we." I'm like not happy with you guys, and made him run sprints during halftime. It's just this guy just seems pretty crazy, man. So we'll see if he can be any more effective than Josh McDaniels was there.
I'm sure he'll be more effective, but yeah, man, he is quite literally the definition of insane. Yeah, up 50 or 60 points in a game, and you're disappointed in your team. I get your team might not have been playing well, and you're probably playing a team with basically kids in wheelchairs, but at the end of the day, man, that's just kind of insane. Philadelphia hosted Dallas, and this was a classic Philly versus Dallas game. Dak Prescott had a pretty impressive game. So did Jalen Hurts. The running game basically didn't exist on either side, and it was just back and forth all game long between the Eagles and the Cowboys. Eagles obviously winning it 28-23. This was just one of the games, if not the best game of the entire weekend.
Yeah, man, the Eagles they go and they're 8-1 now. The Cowboys had a lot of chances at the end of this game to win, to get that touchdown to win the game. They just couldn't pull it off, man. They choke again. Cowboys again being memed for not being able to win the big games. They lose to Philly. They lose to San Francisco. Again, you got to be able to win those big games, and it seems like Dallas every year just chokes, whether it's a playoff game or a big regular season game.
Yeah, it's like Dak will play really really good games against these really good teams that are and it's a very important game for the Cowboys. And then that last half of the fourth quarter, he just is one of the worst quarterbacks in the game. And yeah, it's just embarrassing, really. But yeah, Eagles with obviously a big win here to improve even further up in the NFC standings and obviously their own divisional standings. The Bengals hosted the Bills. The Bengals win it 24-18. I know we both took the Bengals in this one. I think everything was just pointing towards Cincinnati winning this one, even though they were just a 1.5 point favorite in this one. Josh Allen played a pretty decent game, but Joe Burrow, dude, he looked really, really good in this one, especially
Yep.
considering that slow start he had to the season.
Yeah, I knew Cincinnati was going to bounce back this year, and they've done it, man. They're pretty much back in it after starting 0-2, or actually I think they were 0-3. Now they're up to 5-3 now, or 5-3 or 6-3, something like that. They've won like all their games the last 4 or 5 weeks, and they beat the Bills here. It seems like they have the Bills number. They beat them in the playoffs the last couple years here. So I think that the Bengals here are back on track.
Yeah, Bengals winning uh, all four of their last four games. So yeah, definitely a nice comeback after a very very bad start to the season for them. And then last night the Jets hosted the Chargers. I know we both also took the Chargers in this one. I didn't expect it to be this big of a blowout, but the Chargers win at 27-6. I thought this would be a close game just because the Jets' defense has been really, really good. Um, but that said, it was all really the Austin Eckler show in this game for the Chargers. Man, he had a really, really good game. Um, he had only 14 carries, but he had two nice touchdowns that were much needed, and obviously that gave the Chargers a lot of breathing room in this one.
Yeah, and actually their defense carried a lot in this game too. They had 8 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries. Just made Zach Wilson look like Zach Wilson. Just looked absolutely uncomfortable and horrible out there. So their defense stepped up, and Austin Eckler did his thing. So pretty easy win for him.
And Zach Wilson, he actually didn't have that terrible of a game. Yes, he didn't look comfortable. He still went 33 for 49 and over 260 yards in this one. Obviously, no touchdowns, no picks though, which is kind of surprising. But yeah, no, the Chargers defense really stepped up in this. Both teams come out of this game with a 4-4 record now, and the Chargers have been playing some pretty decent football over the last couple weeks. Obviously, they were close with the Cowboys and lost, and then they got blown out by the Chiefs. Now they've beat two pretty bad teams, all with the Jets and the Bears, but ultimately it ended up with a nice win for them. So that wraps up this weekend's slate of NFL games. So yeah, we're gonna get now into the power rankings for Week 10, and we'll start at the number 10 spot. Moving up 2 spots from last week is the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, a shutout in the NFL. It really doesn't happen all too much. I mean, it's such a competitive league. But yeah, the Browns have been playing some pretty good football lately. Their defense obviously has been, the talking point of their season, and their defense has been really good. And now, obviously, with the big shutout here, even if it was against a bad team, it's still holding a team to 0, which is quite impressive.
Yeah, the Browns, man. I feel like every week we've been talking about them hovering right around the number 10 spot. So they've pretty much been around the same the whole season. So nothing really has changed there.
No, and you could probably argue, a couple of the teams that are behind them, like Buffalo or Seattle, ahead of them. But honestly, after both performances from those teams, you can't really make that argument anymore. Also moving up 2 spots to number 9, the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, they've been creeping up the rankings every single week for the last 4 weeks now, and they're deservingly in this top 10 now. I have no issue with it. They've been playing some really, really good football against really good teams. And like I said, man, they struggled to start, but now they've just been picking it up. and now they're sitting 5-3, and they're definitely in a playoff team this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree that they should be in the top 10. I do think they should be over Cleveland. I would have them, you know, even though they're not second yet, I'd put them second in that division, only behind Baltimore. So, yeah, definitely a top 10 team now.
Yeah, for sure. They've definitely been playing like one. Going down 2 spots back to number 8 is the Dallas Cowboys. Look, they played a really good game against Philly. I like where they're at 8. I didn't really like them moving up to number 6 last week, but you know, it is what it is with that one. But yeah, they played a very good game against Philly. It's just those last few minutes, man. They just cannot seem to put a game to bed when every single chance and opportunity is given to them.
Yeah, I mean, they have to go down at this point for just choking all the opportunities that they have to win these big games. So, yeah, they had to move down.
Absolutely so, man. Moving up just 1 spot. They were on a bye week this week, but it was the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously they still lost their last 3 games. Brock Purdy's been looking like crap in these last 3 games. Their defense hasn't really held up a whole lot in these last 3 games. But yeah, I don't think right now the way they've been performing has been even a top 5 team, maybe still a top 10 team, but I don't know, man. But that said, maybe this bye week will help turn things around for them, but that's just, we'll wait to see on that one.
Yeah, I still think they're a top 10 team. I think that they've been struggling here, but uh, can't believe that. I really legit thought they had a good chance of going undefeated. They looked unbeatable at the start of the year, and now they're only 5-3. So hopefully they can pick it back up these next few weeks and uh, get back up in the top 5 of the power rankings.
I completely agree. Moving down 3 spots to number 6, the Miami Dolphins. Look, they can't beat a good team. It's really what it all boils down to. Is you mentioned earlier, man. Most of their wins, all their wins are against teams that are under 500 right now, and they haven't been able to beat a team above 500. And they definitely cannot win on the road. And even though it was a neutral site game, it's still they can't do anything on the road. And they obviously lost to the Chiefs. They had a chance to come back and win, but they just inevitably fell short.
Yeah, they definitely did, man. Definitely um, been been a struggle there for them, and falling short here.
Yeah, just have not been playing very well at all, especially on the road. Moving up 2 spots to number 5, your Detroit Lions.
So on the
You know,
bye week.
on the bye week, they obviously won the bye week, having moved up 2 spots here. But look, obviously, the loss to Baltimore was quite embarrassing. They obviously followed that up with a good win against Las Vegas, who isn't a very good team. They obviously had a bye week. They have a good chance to go out and dominate the rest of their schedule. Only 4 teams, left on their schedule are above 500 currently. Obviously they have Minnesota twice, Dallas is in there, and can't remember the other.
Chargers.
Yeah, oh yeah, and the Chargers.
Well, they're 500 now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're 500. 4 teams on these last 9 games are below 500. So this is very winnable for Detroit. Yeah, they responded very well. Let's see if they can continue this response after that loss to Baltimore.
Yeah, got to be able to beat the good teams, man. And Uh, let's see how they do next week against the Chargers.
Yeah. Uh, Going up one spot to number 4, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, they had a very slow start to start the season now, but they are, they're 6-2 now. They've been playing some really really good football, and yeah, man, Jacksonville on top of their division where they should be because their division is not that good. Um, they started off the season 1-2, but they've come back and they've won their last 5 now, and I don't see this train slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, Jacksonville's finally in a groove now. Um, they were similar to Cincinnati, where they kind of started off a little bit rough to start the year, but Trevor Lawrence has found the groove with that team, and I think that they are definitely worthy of a top 5.
Yeah, especially the way Trevor Lawrence has been playing. Yeah, definitely a worthy of a top 5 spot. Also moving up one spot to number 3 is the Kansas City Chiefs. Look, a good win against a pretty good team. Yes, they didn't look good offensively, as they have really all season. They have not looked well put together. Their defense obviously came up big in this one again. Really, their defense has bailed them out in pretty much every game that they've won this year. And yeah, look, their offense is still struggling. They still need to figure out what's going on, because if their offense keeps playing like this into the playoffs, they're not going to go far at all.
Yeah, they need to figure it out how to get that offense clicking again like they had, in the years past. Got to get Mahomes and the receivers clicking again, because they're going to have to score more points. They want to be able to continue to try and beat some of these top teams.
Yeah, and obviously a win against Miami is good, but again, Miami's just struggling against good teams. So I mean, you know, I wouldn't necessarily say this was a great win for Kansas City, but it's definitely a needed win for them for sure. And then your last 2 spots stay the exact same: Baltimore at 2 and Philly at 1. And I think we agree with both of these being here, man. Philly, obviously they're the best team in the league right now. They just had a big win against a pretty good Dallas team, and Baltimore obviously a big blowout win again over a division leading team in Seattle.
Yeah, I agree with both of these picks here. Eagles are super solid. They still only have the 1 loss, and Baltimore has been pretty dominant in the games they've played against some solid teams. So I'm gonna have to agree with the top 2 teams here.
Yeah, there's really nothing you can really disagree with on those 2. So that wraps up your NFL power rankings. So let's get into college football, man. We had obviously a lot of games this weekend, as usual. That's just college football. But we'll get into these top 25 matchups. We'll start with Rutgers hosting number 1 Ohio State. Rutgers, they went into halftime leading this game 9-7. They end up losing ultimately to Ohio State, 35-16. But for a while there, I thought maybe Rutgers could upset Ohio State, but in the end, their defense just fell very very flat in that second half, and their offense too.
Yeah, I can't believe freaking Rutgers was up in the game. But yeah, definitely got to go with Ohio State here for getting the win in the second half, but wasn't too impressive.
No, it wasn't a very impressive game, but OSU just every single game it seems like they really struggle in the first half, and then the second half they kind of just stretch that lead out. So yeah, just a good game, good win for Ohio State. Number 3, Michigan hosted Purdue on Saturday night. Michigan winning 41-13. Michigan obviously dominated the first half. They went into halftime leading 20-6, and then from there, you know, it was just all Michigan until a very late touchdown by Purdue with 18 seconds left. J.J. McCarthy had a pretty solid game in this one. No passing touchdowns, but yeah, 330 yards. And, Blake Corum, 3 rushing touchdowns on just 15 carries and 44 yards. Pretty damn good game for him. And I believe he goes up to third all-time for Michigan rushing touchdowns. I'd have to double-check that one. But, yeah, good game either way for Michigan.
Yeah, it's a good game, but I think Michigan has a lot more to worry about than how the outcome of the game was.
Oh yeah, no, we'll get into that once we really want to we really should just dedicate an entire episode to that, but I don't think that's really going to be completely possible. But man, yeah, definitely a lot more stuff to worry about. Number 7, Texas hosted number 23 Kansas State. Texas wins this one 33-30 in overtime. Big stop on a 4th and goal. To prevent Kansas State from winning this one. Yeah, Texas obviously, they've been a pretty damn good team this whole year. But Kansas State, got to give credit to them. They've been playing out of their minds this year. Obviously, they fell out of the rankings in the AP poll, but they got back into the rankings due to the College Football Playoff Committee, and rightly so, man. They have been playing some damn good football lately. But yeah, man, this was a very, very fun game to watch.
Yeah, it was definitely a really tight game here. And yeah, Kansas State putting up a battle there, man. I was getting nervous there the end of the game, but it was a nice, hard-fought battle.
Yeah, definitely a very, very fun game. Very hard, tough-fought battle. And another tough-fought battle, Ole Miss, number 10 Ole Miss, hosted Texas A&M. They win this one 38-35. And look, Ole Miss's offense has been really, really good this year. They're one of the best offenses to watch. And Texas A&M, their offense actually played a pretty damn good game. But again, it is against Ole Miss's defense, who's really not all that good. But this was a very, very fun game to watch. Ole Miss obviously coming up with the big win, though.
Yeah, again, another one that was a lot closer than I thought. Ole Miss, though, with the big win there, and they were got a big week ahead of them with Georgia coming up, so needed that big win.
Oh, definitely needed that big win. We got our first of quite a few upsets in the top 25 this week. Clemson hosted Notre Dame, and they win 31-23. Notre Dame, after playing some pretty good games the last couple weeks, stringing along some nice wins against USC, and obviously, beating Pitt, but that's Pitt, and losing to Louisville in a pretty close game in this one. They lose to Clemson. They did not look good at all in this one. Sam Hartman especially didn't look good. 13 for 30 and 2 interceptions. It's not like Clemson really played all that well, but man, you can't be giving away pick sixes like Sam Hartman was.
Yeah, that was a tough one for Notre Dame here, especially after all the tough wins that they had. Now they're a 3-loss team, probably out of the top 25. So tough for them, man.
Yeah, very, very tough game for them. Number 17, Tennessee hosted UConn. Look, Tennessee won at 59-3. UConn is garbage, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's not even fair. But yeah, Not a whole lot to talk about. It's like I can't take anything away from a game like this.
Yeah, I mean, not much to say other than UConn is like what, one win. They're awful.
Yeah, just absolutely horrible. Number 18 Utah, another big blowout here. They hosted Arizona State, and Utah won 55-3. And look, Arizona State's bad, but they did keep a very very close game with Washington. That said, though, man, Utah, yeah, just blowing out Arizona State. So, not like I said, nothing I could really take away from that one.
Yeah, not much to say other than there's a big blowout there.
One of our other upsets this week, number 25 Air Force hosted Army, and Army wins 23-3. Air Force, they've been playing some pretty damn good football uh, to start the year, and then falling to a damn bad Army team. Just yeah, not a very impressive performance at all. Their defense just could not stop the run whatsoever.
Yeah, they looked pretty damn bad, man. I can't believe Army, who just got their shit kicked in by LSU. I mean, winning this one.
Yeah, I mean, our Army plays football like it's 1920 still. They average only throwing like 7 passes a game. I mean, it's ridiculous. But Air Force's weakness finally got revealed this week, and that's the run, man. If you keep stuffing it down their throat, Air Force ain't gonna, stop you. Number 2, Georgia hosted number 12, Missouri, and this was a pretty fun game to watch, man. Carson Beck looked really, really good here. Georgia winning 30-21. There was chances for Missouri to win this game, but ultimately, Brady Cook just throwing some untimely interceptions ended up winning, letting Georgia win this game.
Yeah, that was definitely a tough one there from Mizzou, but Georgia finally gets a somewhat impressive win on their resume.
Yeah, finally they get a team that actually is real and has a heartbeat, unlike Michigan. But it is what it is there. But yeah, Georgia with an impressive win. Missouri, like I said, had a chance to win it. Ultimately, they fall just 9 points short. Pitt hosted number 4 Florida State. Florida State wins 24-7. Look, Florida State has just been fluctuating up and down all season. This obviously was kind of one of those games where they didn't play all too well, but when their offense is rolling, their offense rolls. Jordan Travis did not play his greatest game, despite throwing for 360 yards. He only went 22 for 36. But it is Pitt, but they definitely should have, won by a lot more than they did.
Yeah, Florida State didn't look as strong as I thought they would. Definitely got to play better against bad teams like that.
Yeah, struggling against Clemson, struggling against Boston College, can't really be doing that if you want to really have a good chance. I mean, their best win obviously is LSU in what was basically a de facto home game, even though it was neutral field. But yeah, just a very inconsistent team. But when they're good, they're good. Oklahoma State hosted Oklahoma in another upset. Oklahoma State wins this game. Oklahoma went in as a 7.5-point favorite. They lose obviously by just a field goal. This was a pretty damn good game to watch. Oklahoma State's running offense looked really, really good against Oklahoma's defense. The passing game also looked pretty good. Alan Bowman went for 334 yards in this one. Didn't throw a touchdown, but ultimately, yeah, Oklahoma State they came back in this one, but ended up with a damn good win over Oklahoma.
Yeah, that was a very interesting game to watch. I was watching some of that game and just going back and forth, and Oklahoma suffers another big loss here, so they're pretty much falling back to grace here after being in the top five for some time. Oklahoma State with the big win after they got put in by the committee in the top 25 and showing why they belonged there.
Yeah, just Oklahoma, like I said, man, they're gonna fall out of this top five pretty quick, man. Yes, they had the big win against Texas, but man, I think if you play that game again, Texas wins that one. I really do believe that. Maryland hosted number 11 Penn State. Penn State winning this one 51 to 15. Obviously, Penn State, um, they struggled against Indiana last week after a tough loss to Ohio State. Pretty big statement win. Maryland was kind of just out of this from the get go. The offense bouncing back just a little bit here after struggling the last couple weeks. But yeah, very good game. Drew Aller, man, he's garbage, but I'll give credit this week, man. He threw 4 touchdowns, so I can't really be all too mad about that one.
Yeah, Drew Hour looked pretty solid this week, and they got the big Michigan game coming up, so we'll see how he does there.
Yeah, very, very big game this weekend. We'll get into that on Thursday's episode. Number 13, Louisville hosted Virginia Tech, and Louisville with a big, big win here, 34 to 3. Look, Virginia Tech isn't all too great. They're now a sub 500 team after this loss, but yet Louisville looked really, really good in this game. Um, basically right from the start, man. They just did not let up at all. Louisville, big win here, despite it being Virginia Tech, just a much needed conference win.
Yeah, it was nice win by Louisville after some tough, devastating losses they've had to Pitt. Uh, they needed a big win there.
Yeah, they definitely needed a big win, and they surely got it. Tulane, they went to East Carolina, number 24, Tulane. Uh, you know, they win this game 13 to 10 against the worst team in their conference. Look, Tulane just struggled, man, all day. I thought this would be a blowout just because East Carolina's so bad. And Tulane's offense has been really good, but their offense really struggled in this game for some reason. And their defense, obviously, their defense did what they needed to, but I'm just surprised that Tulane's offense did not just run up the score on this very, very bad East Carolina team.
Yeah, definitely a tough one there for East Carolina, but Tulane coming out here and you know showing why they were again one of the teams that were in the rankings at one point.
Yeah. Number 6, Oregon hosted Cal. Oregon wins 63 to 19. Bo Nix, dude, he looked absolutely incredible in this one. 29 for 38, almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. You know, Bucky Irving looked really, really good in this game as well for Oregon. He had a rushing touchdown. Just Oregon's offense just was all over the place. Cal had no answers whatsoever for this Oregon offense.
Yeah, Bo Nix looked really good, man. Oregon put up a lot of points and definitely did better than USC did against Cal.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. Cal had, they were in a shootout with USC all game, and just this one, man, this just had no answer for anything Oregon did. And speaking of shootouts, man, USC, number 20 USC hosted number 5 Washington. Oh boy, defense did not exist in this game. Obviously, we know USC's defense is allergic to tackling, and Washington's defense at times has been pretty damn good, but not in this one at all. Michael Penix had a very, very solid game from him, despite the pick. But got to give credit to Dylan Johnson in this one. He rushed for 256 yards on just 26 carries, and he had 4 touchdowns. Dude, I mean, that is a potent running game there.
Yeah, that was another one that I was able to check out some of it this weekend, and I mean, what a crazy performance there by both teams, just scoring. It seemed like every single time they were down. USC definitely had their chance to win this one, but Washington comes out with the big win in the high-scoring game.
Yeah, like I said, man, both of these teams just decided defense doesn't need to be playing. They might as well have been playing, against air because it was just that bad. Iowa State hosted number 21 Kansas. Kansas gets the W, 28-21. Iowa State was favored in this one by 2.5. And they kind of showed why. I mean, they played a very, very tight game with Kansas, but Kansas ultimately, with their backup quarterback in, still gets the W. And they improve to 7-2 in this one.
Yeah, we both, I believe, took Kansas in this one, and they even though they were facing some odds here stacked against them, they were able to come out with the W.
Oh yeah, it was Iowa State played a pretty good game, but yeah, Kansas able to come up with the big win. And we both took Kansas. And we won that one, and now to the game where we took the same team, and we both obviously lost big time on this one. Number 8, Bama hosted number 14, LSU. Bama wins 42-28. I thought this was going to be a shootout, but I thought LSU would ultimately win it. And I'm yet again disappointed in LSU, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, LSU, they kept it close through about 3 quarters, and then kind of just fourth quarter just lost it.
Yeah, just they just broke down in the second half yet again, and it is what it is there. Colorado hosted number 16 Oregon State. Oregon State coming out with the victory, 26-19. Look, this game, Shedeur Sanders had a pretty decent game. DJ he had a pretty solid game as well. Although he only completed 50% of his passes. But yeah, Oregon State coming up with a nice W here against a Colorado team that was obviously way overhyped to start the season, and all that hype is very, very slowly dying, and I'm all for that.
Yeah, shout out Oregon State for that infinite money glitch against Colorado, man. Won some easy money taking them over Colorado. So I had to do it, man, because I can't support Colorado here.
And neither can I, man. And then our last top 25 matchup, the top 25 killer, Arizona, hosted number 19 UCLA. Arizona wins 27-10. They're now a ranked team after, they're a 6-3 team now, but man, they have looked really, really, really good lately. Obviously beating some really good teams and, keeping it close with, I believe it was USC or was it Washington? I can't remember. Keeping it close with the USC and then obviously beating a ranked at the time Washington State team. They've been really on a roll lately. They've won 3 of their last 4, all against ranked teams. Obviously, the only loss there was to USC, but they beat number 19 Washington State. Then they beat number 11 Oregon State, and now they beat a number 19 UCLA team. And dude, I'm telling you, man, this team has been sneaky good. Their defense has been incredible, and their offense has been putting up some damn good points lately too, man. But just a tough loss for UCLA.
Yeah, I thought UCLA would win this, but Arizona has been showing that they are a pretty dang good team. They've beat some good opponents and also kept some games close. So They are uh, definitely a solid opponent here for uh, the teams in their conference.
Yeah, I mean they've been really, really just hammering away at these ranked teams. I mean, almost beating USC, and then obviously beating Washington State, then beating Oregon State, then beating now beating UCLA. I mean, they've deservingly gotten themselves into this top 25 talk because they started off the season pretty slow, and then yeah, man, just I've picked it up a lot in the last few weeks. But we're gonna quickly get into a rankings blitz here. We're just gonna do the top 15. Obviously, Arizona got themselves into the rankings. UNC got themselves back in, but so did Iowa somehow. But there's obviously a lot of movement. But let's just get into this top 15 real quick. Up 7 spots, obviously Oklahoma State from 22 to 15. Missouri lost only 2 spots in this loss to Georgia down to 14. Tennessee went up 4 spots to 13. Oregon State went up 4 spots to 12, and then Louisville up to number 11, going up 2 spots. I'm good with this group of 5 right here. Or Oklahoma State, obviously a big win. They've been playing some really good ball, mostly under the radar this season. Tennessee, yeah, I mean, really moving up that high because of their win over a bad UConn team, but outside of that, I mean, yeah, a very solid group here.
Yeah, honestly, I think that I don't really have much complaints here with this group in the rankings.
Yeah, not nothing really major there. And then into the top 10, the top 5 stayed actually the top 8 stayed the same here, but Penn State and Ole Miss are number 10 and number 9 respectively. They both moved up 1 spot, and then obviously the rest in this group, Alabama, Texas, and Oregon, all stay the same. Look, I'm not mad. I'd probably put Ole Miss over Bama, but they did lose to Bama, so that's probably why you put them there. Penn State, obviously they struggled against Ohio State and kind of struggled against Indiana too, but they're back to the top 10. I think they should be there. And obviously, I think I would probably put Texas above Oregon right now, but you could probably argue Oregon obviously has just been playing out of their minds lately.
Yeah, I'm kind of cool with these rankings, but yeah, I gotta agree with Texas over Oregon right now.
And then lastly, your top 5. Number 5 is Washington, then follows by number 4, Florida State. Number 3 is Michigan. Number 2 is Georgia, and number 1 still OSU. Look, if I'm being honest, man, Washington should be at number 2. It probably put Florida State at 3, and then Georgia 4. I wouldn't even put Michigan in the top 5 if I'm being honest with you. They just haven't played anyone. They will this week, and we'll get into that on Thursday. But right now, man, just Michigan does not have the resume to be at number 3.
Yeah, it's so tough, man. Like these schedules in college football are so wacky, man, because you got teams that play super tough opponents, seems like all the time, and the other teams that haven't played anyone. So it's like, how do you kind of gauge how good the team is when they're not playing anyone? So definitely a tough Georgia's got Ole Miss and Michigan's got Penn State, so they're going to play some good teams this coming week. But tough for them to really be at the top when they haven't played anyone.
Right, and look, Georgia finally played a real team this week. They played Missouri, and they won. But I just cannot quantify having Michigan even in the top 5 right now. Hell, I'd probably put Texas and Oregon both ahead of Michigan. But at least Florida State and Washington right now need to be ahead of Michigan, and probably Oregon too. And you could probably argue Texas as well, man. Just because they've played tougher schedules, they've played real opponents, and they've won those games. Outside of obviously the loss each for Texas and Oregon, but still playing actual teams. I just can't gauge where Michigan really is at. I believe they have a lot of talent, and they could very well be a top 5 team. But just right now, man, I haven't seen anything to really quantify it.
Yeah.
So that is going to wrap up today's episode. Very quick episode. We don't really have a lot going on in the NHL and the NBA right now. But next week, we're going to introduce some power rankings for both those leagues to, kind of mix up, instead of just talking about football and then, stories in the leagues, we can actually get into a little bit of details on what's going on in those leagues. Because obviously, we're going to talk a lot about football. That's the biggest, thing for us. We love football. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, rate, review, subscribe. Help us out. Let us know, what do you want to hear? What do you want to see from us? And we will happily make any changes for you. Mike, do you have anything else to add before we go here?
Yeah, just definitely stay tuned here for the new power rankings that we'll be doing, and leave us some suggestions on anything else that you'd want to see moving forward with the podcast here as we continue to drop these 2 episodes each week.
Yep. And with that, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys on Thursday.